Hello everybody, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here today. What I want to give you a presentation on very, very briefly is to chat through what we believe is one of the world's greatest challenges, and that's how do we produce food going forward sustainably. And that sustainable journey is going to be one that affects every single one of us, but I also want to share with you then a little bit of a story of what Ireland is doing uniquely, I guess, in tackling this issue. So what's driving the global demand for food? Clearly, it's the population growth is going to be huge when you're seeing that never-ending, I guess, growth and those trajectories that are continuously being put before us. But when you look at any of the analysis that's been told to us, we're effectively going to require 1.5 planets to be able to feed ourselves by 2050. And that means that we need to produce 70% more food, and knowing at the rate we're going at the moment, we're going to have less land, water, energy, but we should also have to do that in reducing our global gas emissions. And that's a pretty stark finding. But we're also knowing that this message is being taken more and more seriously because investors are now starting to shape their decisions by companies they believe are acting responsibly. And the fund is following the behavior. You're also seeing customers changing their behavior. So whether you're going to be dealing with Marks and Spencer's and it's plan A because there's no plan B, when you're looking at McDonald's and their road to sustainability, when you're looking at Unilever and their claims, or you're looking at Nestle, where they decided to try and create more value by operating sustainably, there's one common denominator on this, and every one of them is dependent on their suppliers to be able to make that difference. So when you're looking at that from the perspective of the seafood industry, it's just as important because the likes of Sainsbury's are now making claims that they also want to have all of their sourcing sustainably because there are too many characters, I guess, or too many action groups that are now going to challenge them on these vulnerabilities if they can't stand forward for it. You're going to have more and more claims going through, and this is happening right throughout the world. It's not a European issue, but more and more of our customers are saying they will make decisions, procurement and business decisions, based on how people are treating their purchasing or how they're procuring that product for them. And sustainability increasingly, no matter where you are in the world, is becoming the answer to that. However, the traditional MSC, that was the normal solution that every seafood industry went to, is becoming more and more normal. It's what you expect people to give you rather than giving you that premium that traditionally it held for you. Armed with all of this evidence, I guess, when you look at it from an Irish perspective, we're an export-orientated country, so all of the time we need to be best in class. And 5 years ago, this month, I guess, we looked at what did we have as a response to this global challenge. This morning in the video, it was said, we are green and we think blue. And I think that's just as evident all the way through. How can we actually leverage what we're known for in a sustainable environment? We have those natural credentials. We have an abundant supply of water, as people mentioned, when other countries don't. And that allows you to have an abundant supply of being able to produce good food. But how can you prove that to the world? And more importantly, how can you improve on your activity as well? 5 years ago, as I mentioned, the Irish government, and Borbia was a key instrument to this, created Origin Green. And it was the first, at that time, the first country approach, national approach to creating a sustainability program. And that sustainability program was bringing all of the supply chain together for it. And what it was about was not just greenwashing or let's tell them we're green and get more photos and get them to be more realistic. This was about creating facts and figures, and it was about creating trust on a business-to-business level. The amazing thing about this is we've celebrated our 5th year birthday last week, and we're still the only country in the world who's taking this approach to it. And what are the conditions that we're looking for? Well, the commitment we made when we set this up was that this was not going to be a small pilot. This was going to have every part of the chain committed to it. We would commit to measuring what matters, and that we would get that measuring done by independent, verified sources to do that. And it would be based on science, not photographs. So what we did was we aligned the whole supply chain, and to do this for seafood, obviously we aligned completely with BIM to do that, and I guess evidence to that partnership was in the Sustainable Atlas that they launched again yesterday to make sure that every part of this complex industry was to be embraced properly to it. So you start with the producer, you go then to the processor, and you bring in your retail and food service operators. But what we're looking to do is commitment right the way through that supply chain. And what we've done to get that commitment on the supply chain is look to every single company to join it. So we now now have 95% of our exports committed to join this journey, with 85% of it being accredited and verified at this point, but the journey continues. And particularly if you call out the seafood industry, 51 of our seafood operators are now verified members on that journey with committed goals and contracts with us to say this is how we're going to behave in a sustainable world. And where that goes forward then is it means that they will source sustainably, it will have their processes sustainably, but they will also behave sustainably in that social aspect of the world that they have as well. So it covers everything from the certification of their sourcing methods to their use of energy and water, right through to their attitudes to employee well-being, community initiatives, etc. But what we also do in this is we tell the world about it, because there is no point in doing this kind of activity if everybody can't share the outputs as well. And this means that you put yourself up to be criticised very often, but it also means that you are making progress on so many things. And you can see there that we've gathered over the last 5 years over 24.7 million pieces of data that we're now looking to leverage from it. Because as we enter into the next phase it's not about having the data, it's clearly about using it to make very, very strong decisions on it. And this, as I mentioned earlier, the reason we are the only country in the world is actually it's a benefit being small in this particular subject matter, because you can see that we have all of the arms of the state working very closely together, and particularly with BIM on this initiative as we work right the way through the supply chain to make that significant difference as well. But the most important part then is to tell everybody about it. So it's like events today, to tell that story of Origin Green to the audiences that matter, but it's also about going throughout the world to tell that story, whether it's at our trade shows or whether it's creating our own ambassadors and our own footprint to tell the world as well by placing our teams in our customers' offices to talk through about what's different about Ireland and its attitude towards sustainability. But as importantly, it's great to have other people doing the story for us as well. And here are two of our key customers. Well, the World Bank is one who is saying that things that they've seen in Ireland is that they hope other countries would learn from this model. Or even looking at McDonald's as a key customer, saying that this is the kind of work that they also want to get more and more done. And even more importantly, it's when our customers put it in as their sourcing criteria that if somebody is part of Origin Green, then that meets the challenges that they are trying to have delivered again. But what this is effectively all about doing is allowing Ireland to have a very differentiated position in a market, particularly, I guess, if you've got a subject matter like Brexit, that means that we have to make a new difference in the market. We now have one of these amazing toolkits in order to do that. But there's a very big journey ahead, because we don't assume that everything is done. But if we look at what it is that we're trying to do, it's about lowering our footprint. That's a clear challenge for everybody, and to make ourselves work more efficiently in doing that. But it's also about enhancing the impact that we have on society and creating a showcase for Ireland in doing that as well. Most important, and you'll see this in the system of what we've introduced, it's about collaborating and innovating. It's using science, it's learning what we're seeing in science and then putting that into practice to allow our producers become more efficient, but then allow our customers to become more efficient as well. And it's then finally sharing that vision. I have a very short video that tells this story much better than I do, so if you'll bear with me for a couple of minutes, I'd like you to watch this for us.
It takes a lot to grow something special. A lot of dedication, hard work, and belief goes into making anything that lasts. In Ireland, we know the value of building things that last. Our ancestors left their imprint on the land, working in harmony with nature. They cultivated the green, lush fields of Ireland to build a nation that has grown and flourished. And always at the forefront of their mind was to look after the generation to come. They didn't call it sustainability. It was an instinct, an understanding that being in harmony with nature was a good thing. We've always had a contract with nature. It's a contract that is based on respect for the environment, for each other, for the future. It's these long-held values that will help us rise to meet the challenges facing the world's food supply. In the decades to come, climate change and population growth will create enormous strain on global food supply. With the global population expected to rise by 2.4 billion before the year 2050, the world will need to produce up to twice as much food from increasingly limited resources. Food security is a major global issue Ireland is well positioned to help address. Ireland is a country of 5 million people, yet we produce enough food to feed 25 million. With this in mind, 5 years ago, Board Bia created Origin Green, the world's first national sustainability programme. Our objective is to help every food and drink producer in Ireland become fully sustainable. Every day, farms the length and breadth of Ireland are audited under our quality assurance scheme to ensure they are achieving agreed targets in areas of sustainability. Businesses who sign up to the Origin Green Charter are independently verified by our international partner, SGS. These producers are helped to achieve results in raw material sourcing, carbon emissions, energy management, waste management, water management, biodiversity, traceability, and social sustainability. Over 90% of Irish food exports have been verified under Origin Green. We rank second in the world for food security. Our farmers, food and drink manufacturers, and retail and food service distributors are leading the way when it comes to protecting the environment, the community, and the raw materials under their care. We are not only renewing our contract with nature, we are improving it in order to meet the rising challenges of our modern world. The approach is modern, but the knowledge and values underpinning it have echoed through the ages. For us, it's always been about having a commitment to family, to community, to the environment, and to the future. Wherever life flourishes, the fruits of Irish soil are savoured. In Ireland, we know that food is for life.